Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everyone, welcome. The topic of today's presentation is Importance of Human Life and Death, the Quranic View. These three references I have noted, so these should help to study around this particular topic. Scope of this presentation. This presentation will not cover aspects already shared in another talk titled Death and the Life in the Hereafter. If you remember, we had this talk sometimes back, and a number of aspects were covered over there regarding the hereafter. Physical death is a fact of human life, and all human beings die at some point in time. The Quran states this fact clearly and unambiguously. It tells us that since every human being has a self which possesses choice and intent, thus each one of us can develop this self using its guidance to make both this life and also the life of the same self better in the hereafter. In today's presentation, we will look at some of these aspects. Some aspects have been touched in our previous presentations by our speakers. Now, outline of the presentation. First, I will go through the root of life, that is hayat, root of death, maut. What is life? Some interesting definitions. I will share 5 definitions and what human beings think outside the Quran. Sacrificing a lower value for a permanent value. Verses of the Quran defining life and its meaning. What is death? Using the Quranic criteria. Some verses on various aspects, human intellect and reasoning. Some signs defining criteria for life. Conclusion. Today, I will not put a formal conclusion. I thought I will go through 3 verses of the Quran to conclude today's presentation. Root of life. I've noted here the root, which is hayyu or hayat. He lived or became alive. This means that he made him alive. That is giving life. Life itself, as generally understood, to give life, to shrink due to instinct of self-preservation in living things. If we touch even a small cell, that also tries to squeeze itself. And even a small ant, if we put a small obstruction its way, it tries to go around it or try to fight back. Also means shyness, shame, i.e. feeling the need to step back a bit. So in terms of shame and also in terms of shyness, it is also used in the Quran. A snake is also called hayya because it moves by shrinking and extending. According to Raghib, it means the faculty of sensation, the opposite of which is death. So all the feelings, sentiments, emotions, whatever we are expressing because of being alive. Now, I've noted down some of the applications. In Lughatul Quran, you will see there is a great details given over there. Ability to grow in plants and animals comes under this. The faculty of feeling and thinking. The faculty of intellect and action. So once we are using intellect and we act on that, that is also part of being alive. Freedom from anxiety and sorrow. This is interesting. Life in the hereafter and eternal state, which man can only reach through this life, which is actually a life of intellect and knowledge. So hereafter is applicable to humans only. Animals don't have hereafter. The life with which only the being of Allah is defined, in which there is no death, and the Quran has called Allah as Al-Hayyul Qayyum. So that is important for us because life is created by Him. So life is coming from His side. Also related to giving life to dead land through the growth of vegetation. We know a number of verses on this. Also used in relation to meaning getting benefit. In the Quran, in relation to the life in the hereafter, the word hayyawan has also appeared, which is in chapter 29, verse 64. Its weight is on fulan. Intensity and control comes under this weight, something appearing emergently and the aspect of movement and anxiousness exists. This means that the life in the hereafter is not a continuity of this process through physical existence, that is physical laws. That life will acquire a new form in this and there will be different laws for it over there. So the point over here is that when Quran uses a term like that, which essentially means that we have to pay attention to that and think about it, that how life will change its form as far as human beings are concerned. And this issue of emergent evolution, we will discuss it in some other presentation. The Quran does not call human physical life as being life. Along with it, the real life is that of human eminence, in which man, using intellect and reasoning in the light of Wahi, keeps developing his self. Root of death. Root is MWT, and it is about mouth. It is the opposite of life, also used metaphorically for tranquility. Anything in which movement stops, for example, stagnancy. Fire was extinguished, wind stopped, sleep is compared with death in the Quran. Just as life is not merely breathing and has many aspects, similarly, death is not just the cessation of breathing. So it is not just our physical death, which is death. There are a number of other areas for which Quran has pointed our direction. For example, the Quran has said that every self will taste death, which points to the continuation of the self's life beyond physical death. Now, there are various kinds of death noted in the Quran. If any land is not able to grow vegetation, it is called dead. If human beings lose feelings, become insensitive due to some circumstances or environment, decline or ineffectiveness of human intellect and consciousness. For example, people who do not use their cognitive faculties are also called living dead. Human life becomes overwhelmed with huzn and fear. For example, hardships, poverty, humiliation, life of subjugation, perpetual grief and fear. The word in 2021 represents this state for millions of human beings. So that means that if we are meant to do certain duties, certain responsibilities, certain aspects of our life through our movement and through our intellectual abilities, and because of those factors like hardships, poverty, humiliation, subjugation, slavery, all those things, there is a huzn and fear created, then we are not able to do that, and that is also a state of death. State of stupor, which is a state of unconsciousness and craziness, where human beings do not understand fully the purpose of their life. Animals which die without being slaughtered, so it's used in that sense as well, also human physical death. Nations which lag behind and live under subjugation are also called dead. In the Quran, we need to see the context in which this term appears. So we need to, as we go through the various verses, wherever this appears regarding death, we have to see the context of it. Death is universal and part of human physical makeup. Now, I have drawn a chart here. If we say that death is 100%, it's nothing less, nothing more. The day that we die, we know we are not coming back to this physical world. So if we imagine that if I'm not around and the world will still go on, that will put an emphasis on my disappearance from this universe. We should not hasten the death of others, need to think through all contributing factors. This is very important for us to understand, that people say, oh, just kill him, just hang him. It's not like that. We all are going to die. So putting someone to death is not the solution of a problem. We are taking away the right of life from that individual who is never going to come back. And we should appreciate the importance and value of life by looking at our own existence in the light of the Quran. And that is why Quran places human being at a very, very high level of understanding when we think within the Quranic boundaries. So life should not be taken that easily, that you go and get rid of someone just because you don't like their belief system. All our efforts, successes, and sufferings should lead to positive results for us, must not end with our physical death. So that also puts everything in perspective. If we are living in this life and we are suffering and the human being suffering and we are guided by the Quran, we should look at it that if we have made so much effort, we have suffered through the system, we should try to get maximum out of it. And that is where the concept of life of the Quran comes into it. By virtue of possessing a self based on divine energy, very important, by virtue of possessing a self based on divine energy, and Quran is also divine, we need to figure out the reality of human creation and its higher purpose. grow beyond an animalistic existence as soon as possible. The longer we stay within the animalistic state, the longer we are away from the truth or reality of life, the longer we will be away from Haqq. What is life? Some definitions outweigh the Quran. I thought we'll go through some of these. These are quite interesting. Life is defined as any system capable of performing functions such as eating, metabolizing, excreting, breathing, moving, growing, reproducing, and responding to external stimuli. So there is no self in it. So this is how human beings think. Life is meaningful, they say, but its value is made by us in our minds. So whatever I think is meaning for me of my life, that is my meaning. No external standard. And subject to change over time. So it changes as well. Landau argues that meaning is essentially a sense of worth, which we may all drive in a different way. So my sense of worth will be different from somebody else. So someone should tell me what is my worth. From relationships, creativity, accomplishment in a given field, or generosity, among other possibilities. Another one is we live because of the happy things. We live because there are people who love us and people we love back. We live because we want to find out things and learn and become able to do things that we would like to do. We live because others want us to, and we want them to live along with us. Again, self is missing. And secondly is it's all without any focus or aim. We are just want to be happy. Now, I also thought that I'll share a definition, which is a comment from Professor Richard Dawkins, claims that human beings are just throwaway survival machines whose only purpose is to survive and replicate genes. So only to reproduce. Human life is not a meaningless space between birth and death. From that point of view, who thinks it's not meaningless, just produce more of human beings and then just disappear. Spent trying to enjoy ourselves and forget about our predicament. So self doesn't come into it, life hereafter doesn't come into it. He doesn't see poverty in the world. He looks at it from a very narrow point of view of his own. Life's purpose in Christianity is to seek divine salvation through the grace of God and intercession of Christ. So problem solved of religion. Need intercession and salvation. The New Testament speaks of God wanting to have a relationship with humans, both in this life and the life to come, which can happen only if one's sins are forgiven. So sins are presupposed, that we are sinful and these have to be forgiven, and that is the purpose of life. Sacrificing a lower value for a permanent value. Animals do not have values, they follow their inbuilt instincts. If human beings just follow their own desires, then they behave like animals or worse. Animals do not have a life in the hereafter. It's very important. I thought we put it down in a very focused and intense manner that people who are living at that level, there is no point in thinking of hereafter for them. And that is the point I'm trying to make, that our focus should be on life in the hereafter. And in this world, to remain focused on that. All man-devised systems are based on the assumption that human life ends with physical death. Hence, relative values provide the foundation for these systems. The human self and its development does not come into it. A life which is lived based on these values ends with physical death. The self cannot acquire those traits which are required for the life of the hereafter. This is based on evidence, i.e., for example, two selves, one guided by the Quran and one which is not. They manifest different character, conduct, and outlook in this life. Since there is no system of Deen anywhere in the world, those who wish to work for this system need to acquire this. That is, acquire this new life as detailed in the Quran. No more Nabi and Rasool is arriving in this world, so ordinary human beings will need to come forward and volunteer for this momentous task. It's an uphill task, there is no doubt. The Quran guides every aspect of this task, i.e. education, training, hikmat of every aspect of its guidance and the phases of the self's development, with clear signposting to help those who come onto this path. And this is a path of fi sabilillah. That is, Allah has created this universe, Allah has created man, and then provided man guidance so that he can create his own self, create his own new life. Now, the emphasis on us. And we have to create that so that we can carry out those duties in this life on behalf of Allah and then move on to the next one. And then strive hard with all that they possess under the direct guidance of Allah, i.e. through His book. Physical life and its factual reality. Now, I have drawn this or put this schematic together. If we see that there is a fruit tree over here, probably an orange tree, and it has achieved its aim of life. And there is another one, it has also achieved its aim of life, a seed grown into a tree, and now it is bearing fruit. A camel, again, it has achieved the purpose of its life, the qadr for which it was created. So it has become a camel, and now it is reproducing. Same goes for a sheep or a lamb. So camel doesn't have a self, neither it has self. Now, it's a beautiful parrot. Beautiful makes those happy who have a self. So it is for us. I don't think a sheep will be very happy to see a colorful parrot. These achieve full potential, again, ducklings and duck. And then they are human beings. All have potentials, their choice to choose a path of life. And this is where life comes in. Otherwise, just becoming a human being and then die as a physical being, we haven't achieved more than what we were capable of producing, or capable of creating a life. And over here, I have drawn this, I put this picture from one of the president's inaugural address. Using their choice, have come here to listen to pharaohs of 21st century. So we can see that what is the purpose of life here. In the physical domain, all creatures, including human beings, become what they are designed to become. For example, go through a cycle of growth and then die according to their qadr. However, humans have choice and intent and have a self which has the potentials to become what each one chooses to become. The Quran outlines all these potentials and much more. Now, over here, this was the reason for putting this presentation together, because I was listening to a dars on this work by Allama Pervez, and I thought we need to share it. What is stated over here is, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Think not of those who are slain in Allah's path as dead, nay, they live, finding their sustenance or rizq in the presence of their Rabb. So rizq and Rabb has come over here, which means that some kind of development is taking place in the hereafter. So what Quran is saying is that you are going to die. That's a fact of life. And if I'm going to die, then it is better that I should die for a higher purpose rather than just for the basic, just the physical aims of life. So over here, we need to concentrate or focus on this aspect that I'm going to die. But is there a better way of dying so that I can get a new life right in this world and then move on to the next life? So that is the point which the Quran is making over here. And there are a number of verses which we should go above and below these verses which I'm quoting over here. فَارِحِينَ بِمَا أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ أَلَّا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. This verse needs a bit longer or more attention. First, it says that these people, these mu'mineen, have died, and now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that how they are feeling. So they are happy that they are got the fadl of Allah, which means all the bounties in abundance. If you remember, Quran says that you will get whatever you wish, and we have more for you. But the beauty over here is also says that they are very happy that their efforts, as a consequence of their efforts, those mu'mineen who are left behind and those who are coming subsequently, their fear and huzn has disappeared. So that is the aim for us, that death, even death is coming to all of us, then we should work for that, that we are not happy with the khawf and huzn which is created by man-made systems, and we wish to work so that it can be eliminated, which is the purpose of Deen. يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. They glory in the ni'mat, and ni'mat includes, it's not only the physical blessings of Allah or this physical bounties of Allah, it includes elevation and success both in that. That is the elevation of the human self. And fadl is related to abundance, both for the body as well as the self. From Allah, and in the fact that Allah does not let the reward of mu'mineen go waste. So that is a permanent value which Quran states here and motivates us, attracts our attention. Next one is وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْأَحْيَاءُ وَالْأَمْوَاتُ. So see, Quran over here very clearly differentiates that life and death are not compared of those people who are on our path, that is Quran's path, and those who are not. They live on different planes of existence. Inna Allaha yusmi'u man yasha'u wa ma anta bimusmi'in man fil qubur. And Quran over here says, but you cannot make those here who are in graves. And it would be taken as literal or metaphor. So Allah makes anyone here as per Mashiach, that whoever wants guidance will get the guidance of the Quran, and as a result will get new life. And those who do not come to this side, they of course will have nothing in the hereafter. They will just live at a lower level of existence. Giving new life to self needs right priorities. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli idha da'akum lima yuhyikum wa'alamu anna Allaha yahulu bainal mar'i wa qalbihi wa annahu ilayhi tusharun. A very famous verse of Surah Anfal. O Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, give your response to Allah and His Messenger when He calls you to that which will give you life. They were all alive, but Quran says this will give you life. And now we can see that with change in aim, change in focus of life, our life, the nature of life changes. And now that Allah comes in between a man and his heart, and that it is He to whom you shall be gathered. So we should keep that in mind all the time. And next is a very powerful verse. قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وَعَشِيرَاتُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالٌ اقْتَرَفْتُمُوهَا وَتِجَارَةٌ تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا وَمَسَاكِنُ تَرْضَوْنَهَا أَحَبَّ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِهِ فَتَرَبَّصُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. So Quran says that since death is a fact of life, and we have selected or elected to come on this path, then we should do our best rather than make those things priorities which intervene in putting our best towards the path of Allah. And over here, Quran has counted everything. Say, if it be that your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your mates, your kindred, the wealth that you have gained, the commerce in which you fear a decline, or the dwellings in which you delight, are dearer to you than Allah and His Messenger, the striving in His cause, then wait until Allah brings about His amr, and Allah guides not fasiqeen. So this is important, that this verse we should, in fact, if we can remember it by heart, that will be great, because we can then keep reminding ourselves the higher purpose of life, about the higher purpose of life. Points to note: the Quran is not about individual salvation of me. It's not about my own salvation. That is a religious concept. It is inviting us towards a collective system and asking us to strive towards this with full dedication and focus. So we have to convince ourselves that it is not about my salvation, and this point will become clearer later on. In this process, we need to remain very firm and learn to use the Quranic criteria to assess our own thoughts and actions. What happens is, by coming together as well and sharing these things, the fear of death also disappears, because we constantly remind ourselves, constantly develop ourselves and get better and better in our understanding. And then as we apply in our individual life and also later on in a collective life, then things start taking shape. People in their daily life know their needs and interests. In the same way, in our new life, we need to be aware of all these points which are noted in 924. How we develop on this path. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. So it is not alone. Initially, yes, it is alone, then we come together, like we are sharing this platform together. The next verse is, Ma kana li ahli al-madinati wa man hawlahum min al-arabi an yatakhallafu an rasulillahi wa law yarghabu bi anfusihim an nafsihi. Zalika bi annahum la yusibuhum zamaun wa la nasabun wa la makhmasatun fi sabilillah wa la yata'una mawti'an yaghizul kuffara wa la yanal Luna min uduwin nilan illa kotiba lahum bihi amalun salihun. Inna allaha la yudiyu ajral muhsinin. We have shared this verse before as well. I included it over here. There are few points which need re-emphasis. It was not fitting for the people of Medina and the Bedouin Arabs of the neighborhood to refuse to follow Allah's messenger. Very important over here. See, the Quran is saying that if death is you are scared and fearful, what about the messenger of Allah? He is leading you. He also knows, and he also has got a fear of that, but he is overcoming that, and for a higher purpose, with a newly acquired life in the light of Wahi, he is leading you. So why don't you go with him? Or stop claiming to be Mu'mineen. If you are Mu'mineen, then go with him. After all, he is also a human being, exactly like you. Not to prefer their own lives to his, because his self is far higher than yours, and you should go with him because you want to get rid of khawf and huzn, because nothing could they suffer or do but was reckoned to their credit as a deed of righteousness. And once you have made a decision to come to this path, then whatever you are doing will contribute to the development of yourself and also towards the system of Deen. Whether they suffered thirst or fatigue or hunger in the cause of Allah. See, all of these are now forming part of Amal Saleh, or trod paths to raise the ire of kuffar or received any injury, whatever, from an enemy. So whatever you are doing, once you have come into this path, then everything becomes part of Saleh deeds. For Allah does not let good deeds go to waste. وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ nafaqatan sagiratan wala kabiratan wala yaqtauna wadiyan illa kutiba lahum liyajziyahumullahu ahsana ma kanu ya'malun. Nor could they make available anything, their thoughts included, small or big, nor cut across a valley, but the deed is inscribed to their credit, that Allah may requite their deed with the best reward. The Quran explains these scales very clearly, that once you have come to this path, don't think it's an ordinary path. It's an extraordinary path with infinite scales built into it. Once we are in Sirat-e-Mustaqim and joined together, I've drawn a schematic here. It took me some time. I thought how to put it together, and you may be able to come up with something better than this. Path of the Quran is Sirat-e-Mustaqim, even if the system of Deen has not yet been established. So let's assume this is the path, and these are a cluster of Mu'mineen. Now, whatever small or big we do will contribute to our self-development. So, as Quran has said, that once we have selected this path, whether it exists physically or not, it's immaterial, because self can operate even outside the physical domains. Now, whatever we are doing is contributing to this. And of course, we will make mistakes as well and errors of judgment as well. Minor errors being of a lower scale do not affect the overall balance of our conduct. Because over here, the result is ahsan. And then these efforts at some point lead to Deen. Human intellect has limitations. Wahi increases its field of view. If we see that with a naked eye, we can see up to a particular distance. But if we want to look beyond that, we need a telescope or a binocular. Now over here is the moon, which we can see with a binocular, and then with a telescope, and then with a powerful telescope. So this is what does. Wahi gives us infinite vision. Infinitely we can look into not only this life, but beyond this life as well. And of course, with modern telescopes, we can look at the galaxies. And this is something we should keep it in mind, that what Wahi is in relation to our intellect. Now, over here, I've quoted some verses. Inna alayna lal huda. Verily, we take upon ourselves to guide. So Wahi is guiding us, just like that telescope. Wa inna lana lal akhirata wal ula. And verily unto us belong the end and the beginning, because before Allah, all our past of mankind and our future is lying as now. And he is telling us that through this way, you will become extremely powerful. Your vision will expand far, far beyond the vision of normal human beings who are not guided. And we have seen the definitions of meaning of life by them. Allazi yuti malahu yatazakka, how to get it? That get rid of your possessions, share them with others. Not only with a view to help them, but to develop ourselves for the system of Deen and to get new life and to multiply that life within us so that we become eligible for the system of Deen. That should be the aim. It should not be merely helping someone. We should use it as a means to get new life and grow more so that we start bearing fruit. He who gives all that, he has to develop his self. So over here, the mala who is not just possessions, everything, our thoughts, our emotions, our desires, our intellect, whatever we have, just become dedicated 24/7. Illabtaga wajhi rabbihil ala. But only the desire to seek the countenance of their Rabb, the Supreme. So whatever responsibility their Rabb has taken on himself, we totally devote ourselves and dedicate to that. It doesn't matter whatever we are doing in this life, that is fine. But this is something which we have to keep it in mind once we have acquired new life. We need to be clear about the Quranic guidance. I've noted down some points here, probably a repeat. It is not the outcome or product of human intellect. Hence, human intellect alone can never be capable of creating a just world for the good of the whole of mankind. The permanent values noted in the Quran are immutable and help to guide man in this life. Firstly, to identify and overcome those limitations which his emotions, desires, and intellect place on him. Secondly, to acquire that self through Iman, which the Quran has detailed, and then to grow that self through Saleh deeds into a new self, which can deliver those responsibilities which Allah has taken on himself in relation to mankind on earth. This self now has enabled itself for the life of the hereafter. So, see how Quran solves this problem. It says that when you are working for that aim of life which Quran has given you, that is the system of Deen, you shouldn't worry about your own hereafter. That individual salvation just disappears. It is of no consequence. It's of zero consequence. The self is just like a seed, but without a predetermined qadr. We need to turn this seed into the kind which can grow to become what the Quran has explained it can become. This is essentially the purpose of human creation. So Quran is telling us that this new life is the purpose of your creation. So create it through your best efforts. And Quran provides the guidance for that. What is death? Using the Quranic criteria. Not being able to acquire continuity of life beyond physical death. If we fail to acquire the life of the hereafter, then we are literally dead. Follow the path of forefathers without questioning its validity. That is another type of death, because intellect and reasoning was given to us, we didn't use it. Follow our own desires without the guidance of the Quran. Our desires cannot guide us towards the path of Allah without its Quranic guidance. So we have to bring them under this, and we will touch this subject in some other presentation where we will look at the human desires. Follow leaders blindly without questioning their motives and their values. We have seen that big gathering on the inauguration, and all of those human beings possess exactly the same self, and they have gone to greet another similar self, and whose state is also undeveloped. Thinking that life ends with physical death, using intellect solely to get through physical life, no questioning about a higher purpose and possibility of life in the hereafter. That is the definition which Professor Richard Dawkins has used. Follow the belief systems of any religion and never question these beliefs and their psychology. That is, be happy with that, whether it is logical or not, but just to live with it, because it is a belief of convenience. Not using intellect and reasoning except for benefits of physical life. Being deceived by the physical world and thinking that there is no other purpose of human existence. This is the way most human beings live their life. Never exploring our own self and its consciousness and animalistic existence. This is important because animals don't have self-consciousness. They don't think about the issues of life. They're just born for a purpose and they live, reproduce, and then they die. Over here, human beings have been given tremendous potentials within themselves. And if they don't use that, that is another kind of death. A machine which fails to do what it is designed to do is dead. We will never keep a mixer in the house which does not mix. We will never keep a fridge in the house which does not do what it is supposed to do. We will never keep a car whose engine has failed and still we park it outside, though some people do that as well. Of course, their state of life will be different. Anything designed and made to fulfill a purpose, if it fails to meet it, is considered dead. We have seen human beings in their own life, they change models continuously. Perfectly good model, which is doing a good job, still they change it. And the old model becomes dead. Die physically with nothing to go forward, as do not meet the criteria laid down by Wahi of Allah. It is that simple. Allah is absolutely clear and emphatic about it. We should never have any doubts about Allah and the purpose of His creation. We have seen it. He is very precise. He is very direct. And He is very assertive. He is Aziz and Hakim. We must not have any doubt or suspicion or uncertainty about it. So one of the characteristics of us acquiring that life is that we should manifest all those attributes which Allah has, and we should manifest all that understanding at a human level, which Allah wants us to have that understanding. Mushrikeen, Munafiqeen, Kazibeen, Kafireen, Fasiqeen, Mufsideen, Hizbu Shaitan, Zalimeen, all are in the category of the dead according to the Quran. Without use of intellect and reasoning leads to animalistic existence. Now over here I'll share a few verses with you. The first verse is very famous, and Dr. Hamid Mia has also quoted it a few times. وَلَقَدْ زَرَانَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَا هُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَا هُمْ أَذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. Many are the jinns and men we have made for Jahannam. And we know Jahannam is a place where humanity is burnt. Their potentials are burnt. They are not able to come to fruition. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, eyes but they see not, and ears but they hear not. They are like cattle, nay, more astray, for they are heedless, because they are useless in life. Allah has created them for a purpose and they are not using their abilities. Or we can say, if we have created a system, then most human beings coming in that world will also be wasted, because the system is useless, because the system does not provide them opportunities to develop themselves. And this is the state in which we are. So that is why our job becomes very, very hard, very challenging. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا خَلَقْنَا لَهُم مِّمَّا عَمِلَتْ أَيْدِينَا أَنْعَامًا فَهُمْ لَهَا مَالِكُونَ. This is a verse I have taken from Surah Yasin. See they not that it is we who have created for them, among other things which our hands have fashioned, cattle which are under their dominion. So Allah has created these anam for our use, and human beings are treating other human beings as anam. And that is the point which the Quran is making here, that we have control and we are keeping them under our subjugation, animals for our use. And if we use other human beings who have intellect and reasoning for that, then we are degrading ourselves, and of course we are degrading others. وَزَلَّلْنَهَا لَهُمْ فَمِنْهَا رُكُوبُهُمْ وَمِنْهَا يَأْكُلُونَ. And what do we do with these animals? And that we have subjugated them to their use. That is, Allah has said that these animals are placed under your control. He is telling us that animals are placed under our control, and what we have done is we are making use of those animals and also treating others as animals and put them under our control, which is grossly against this particular clause of the Quran, and of course the whole of Quran. Of them, some do carry them. So we are using them for our benefits and our interest and exploiting them, and some they eat. And of course, for all the sustenance which is manufactured across the world is the labor class, the majority of human beings. So exactly human beings are doing what Allah had created animals for us. So I hope I have made this point clear, that we are not supposed to treat other human beings as animals, as explained in the Quran in these verses. Animalistic existence will lead to control by others who use their intellect and reasoning without Quranic guidance. This is the default human state. If we don't want this, then we need to accept Quranic guidance and follow its path. So if all of us are not comfortable with that, then we have to create a new life within us so that we can create the system of Deen. Evidence-based science for those who acquire new life. Innama tunziru manittaba zikra wa khashi ar-Rahman bil-ghaibi wa bashiru bi-maghfiratin wa ajrin kareem. You cannot but warn such a one as follows the message and fears ar-Rahman. See, ar-Rahman is also on the weight of full-on, emergent evolution. So if we follow it, we will get quick results within our lifespan. And fears ar-Rahman unseen, give such a one, therefore, glad tidings of protection and a kareem recompense. And we should also look at this verse in which Quran says that this is a warning for those who wish to be alive or who are alive. Inna nahnu nujil mauta wa naktubu ma qaddamu wa sarahum wa kulla shay'in ahsanahu fi imamin mubin. Over here Quran says, verily we shall give life to the dead, and we record that which they sent before and that which they leave behind. And all things have we taken account based on clear external criteria. So we should keep it in mind that this life which is with us, and we have a limited time, finite time in this world, it is for a very, very high purpose. Qalu ya wailana min ba'asna min marqadina haza ma wa'ada ar-Rahmanu wa sadaqal mursalun. Now, those who never thought that there will be a hereafter, so these are the wordings Quran has quoted from their side. They will say, woe unto us who has raised us up from our beds of repose. A voice will say, this is what our Rahman had promised, and true was the word of the messengers. For us is that we should keep it in mind that because we have acquired new life and we are working within the values of the Quran, so we will not be surprised. So all these three are for us to keep reminding ourselves that we don't want to be surprised because we already know it. So those who are dead, this is what is going to be their expression or their thinking. We know all of this, hence no surprises in the hereafter. Versus defining the reality of human existence, we can choose to acquire a new life beyond a mere physical existence. Wala in saltahum man nazzala min as-samai ma'an fahiya bihal arda min ba'di mawtiha la yakulunna Allahu qul alhamdulillahi bal aksaruhum la yaqilun. We have gone through this verse previously as well, and if indeed you ask them who sends down rain from the sky and gives life therewith to the earth after its death, they will certainly reply, Allah. Say, Hamd be to Allah, but most of them do not use aql. Because they do not use intellect, so they cannot see that how the system around them is working. And that is what Quran has said over here. If you can use it as a metaphor, like I explained in previous presentation, that if we say that Wahi is like sending down from the heavens and it gives life to human beings who are dead. So over here, if we use our intellect, we can understand this metaphor. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. This is the verse, if you remember, I quoted in under the root of life or hayat. What is the life of this world but amusement and play? Those who think that life has no purpose, you will see them being lost in sports and in amusement and entertainment. Whole media is an entertainment, and then we can see the celebrity culture and what is going on in the world. So all those who are lost in that, they think that the life will end with death. So we should be very conscious of it. We have seen this T20 cricket which is going on, and whole nations are absorbed in that, particularly the underdeveloped world. And the Quran over here said that keep it in mind that life has a very high purpose, and help can come to you if you create a new life, that is hayawan. Law kanu ya'lamun, and if you have knowledge and use aql, then you can get it. Elamu annama al-hayatu dunya la'ibun wa lahvun wa zinatun tafakhurun bainakum wa takasurun fil amwali wal awladi. This particular verse is also covers and itemize all those items, just like Surah Tawbah's verse 24, where Quran has given us that if those become your priorities, then you are lost. And over here again, Quran says, Kamatale gaisin ajabal kufara nabatuhu summa yahijo fatarahu musfarran summa yakunu hotama. وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانٌ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Know you that the life of this world is but play and amusement. So don't think that it is. It is a very serious business. Life is a very serious business, because as a consequence of human actions, other human beings suffer. Pomp and mutual boasting and competing through riches and progeny. Here is a similitude, how rain and growth brings forth delight to farmers. Soon it withers. You will see it grow yellow, then it becomes dry and crumbles away. Beautifully, Quran has given a simile or a metaphor that how this life is. In the hereafter is a penalty sphere and maghfirat from Allah and Rizwan. Of course, if we are compatible with Allah wants us, then we'll get new life and we will also get the system of Deen. What is the life of dunya but deception? And we know the meaning of gurur, something very deceptive, something in which, just like a mirage, we think it is a reality, but it is not. We waste whole of our life pursuing something which is not going to give us life. This verse requires our focus and attention about the reality of our existence. Allah defining the criteria of life in relation to Deen. These are the verses from Surah Al-Fajr, Yaqulu Yalaitani Qaddamtu li Hayati. And over here, Quran has given us again metaphorically, and it is reality as well. You will state, would that I had sent forward for my life. That I wish I had taken my life seriously in the world and created a new life. Because the life he will have will be of no use for the hereafter. Ya ayyatu han nafsul mutmainnatu. Contrary to that, there will be another nafs which had followed the path of Deen, had followed the path of Quran, and was with those who are making this effort, and that will have a mutmainna, and contented. And contented over here means to achieve that level of understanding and developed self which can carry out the duties of the system of Deen. Alladhina amanu wa tatma'innu qulubuhum bi zikrillah, ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Those who have iman and whose hearts find itminan in the dhikr of Allah, for without doubt in the dhikr of Allah do hearts find itminan. And it's very interesting if we look at the next verse which I have put down over here. Laqad anzalna alaykum kitaban fihi zikrukum. So zikr Allah is our zikr, zikrukum. Afala taqilun. If we use aql, then whatever Allah has quoted in the Quran is from him to give us or help us to get this new life. وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ أَعْمَى وَأَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. It is a verse which needs our, it should stay in our consciousness for the rest of our life, that if we are blind here, if we thought this life is only love and lahav, then we have wasted our life despite making so much efforts and going through so much misery. And Quran says that you would have lost. And we have seen Allah is very precise. His laws are very strict. Acquiring a new life means intense and focused reflection. Allazi khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala wa huwa al-azizul ghafur. We have gone through this verse before as well, that Allah has created this life and death with a view to give us opportunity to create a new life within us through saleh deeds. And we also start then manifesting Aziz and Ghafur, these two attributes. And within the system of Deen, we will require these attributes. Laqad khalaqnal insana fi ahsani taqweem. Quran says that we have best of the best within us. If we utilize those potentials and then manifest those potentials, we will be surprised ourselves. We are already getting surprised. I'm getting a lot of surprises about my own manifestation and many other things which I could never think of doing in my, should I say, previous life. But if we do not come to the guidance of the Quran, then the worst of the worst will come out of us. And we see that the system of Iblis, what it does to other human beings. And Quran makes it absolutely brilliantly clear that if you have iman and then do those salih deeds, and of course as a result you're progressing towards the system of Deen, and that good will never ever stop. It will go on to the next life. Points to note: bring life out of our animalistic existence, which is heading for permanent death. Taqweem points to our inner potentials and their potential elevated state of development. And I put down here Aziz and Ghafoor point to that. If we do not come to this life-giving guidance, then we head for a state of abasement, which is zulm. Zulm means that we had those potentials and we never made use of those potentials. And that is a zulm, because we did gross injustice to us. We are never going to come back to this life, and we have wasted our all energies and potentials of becoming something which was heading for eternal life. Two essentials, Iman plus Amal Saleh, a recipe for an eternal life for the human self. A far better life here and assurance of the hereafter is inbuilt in this self. Because the Iblisi system is going on for a fairly long time, we somehow may be convinced that this cannot be changed. But the fact is, it can be changed. The first step is to create a new life within us and then consolidate it by coming together. Path of the majority in the world of today. This is the path of the man-made system. The world of 2021 is based on the human intellect. Those on this path, for them, there is no hereafter as defined by the Quran, as they do not meet that criteria. This is 21, 22 will happen the same, 23, 24, 25, 26. Just think it will continue in the same fashion. Sirat-e-Mustaqim defined by the Quran exists. Whether it is visible or not, it exists. It is our choice when we wish to join those who are already on it. All verses dealing with Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen are about this path. And in 2021, we have joined it, and there will be more, and there will be more, and that is how it goes. Human self's life is not cyclic. So it is not going round and round as people think that we'll come back to this life again. Birth of a child, it grows physically, and then we die and more children are born. This is the state of physical world of human beings without the guidance of the Quran. And if we go tangent, we come out of it, this life, this concept of life of the hereafter begins then. And next is acquiring new self and new life. So we should branch off from this. And over here I have quoted a verse, وَقَالُوا مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ وَمَا لَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. This is what the Quran says. Most of the people think that it is the time we die, our body becomes old, and that is the end of it. And they say, what is there but our life of this world? We shall die and we live, and nothing but time can destroy us. But of that they have no knowledge, they do zan. And another is, إِلَيْهِ مَرْجِعُكُمْ جَمِيعًا وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقًّا إِنَّهُ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ بِالْقِسْطِ وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ شَرَابٌ مِّنْ حَمِيمٍ وَعَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْفُرُونَ. To him will be your return, all of you. The promise of Allah is haq. It is he who begins creation and repeats it, that he may reward with kiss those who have iman and do salih deeds. So we should be absolutely assured that the life which we have acquired, it is not going to go wasted. Worldly life via Quran linked to the life in the hereafter. Now over here, what I've shown is a seed which is growing. Just like the growth of a seed, we also appear in the physical world. And then through choice, we acquire iman plus salih deeds, create our seed of new life. I thought I should illustrate it with a schematic. So here we have created a new seed. Death takes us into the life of the hereafter. And over there, the seed of the self which we bring into this life should be compatible with the environment of Deen of Allah. Characteristics explained by the Quran, for example, Mu'mineen, Muslimin, Sadiqeen, Muttaqeen, Mohsineen, Dakirin, Qanitin, Sabirin, Salihin. They all apply here. And creative life through permanent values plus divine attributes. So efforts are not going to go wasted, whether the Deen gets established during our life or some future time. That, of course, is an issue, but it should not stop us from developing ourselves as much as possible with this aim in mind, not my own salvation. The state of the Muslim world in a simple schematic. Now, this is we know about it. This is Masjid al-Nabawi, this is Mecca, and this is from Lahore. And the Quran is recognized as a book of guidance by all of them. They all who are here, they all say that we believe in Quran, whether they have read it or not. Can it help to achieve a new life? That is the question we should be asking. And then the Quran says that this is within your reach. وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ وَجِيءَ بِالنَّبِيِّينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُم بِالْحَقِّ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. So this is within your reach. If you just believe in it and think this is a book which will get you through to the hereafter, it will not. The procedure is given there, and unless we acquire that life and then develop that life, this is not going to happen. It's human hands. Finally, to conclude, let us share a few verses. First verse is Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ma lakum idza qila lakum munfiru fi sabilillahi attaqaltum ilal ardi araditum bil hayati dunya min al akhirati fama mata'ul hayati dunya fil akhirati illa qalilun. Beautifully, Quran defines the scale of this life in relation to the hereafter. O Jamaat-e Mu'mineen, what is the matter with you? See, this is addressed to Mu'mineen and Rasulullah is present there. So it takes time to take off. When you are asked to go forth in the cause of Allah, you cling to the earth. That is, your feet become very heavy. Do you prefer the life of this world to the hereafter? And all of us know that death is going to come. But little is the comfort of this life as compared with the hereafter. And the next one is, Illa tanfiru yu'azzibukum azaban aliman wa yastabdil qawman ghayrakum wa la tadurruhu shay'an wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. In this case, of course, the other nations have already replaced Muslims of the past. Unless you go forth, he will punish you with a grievous penalty. So we are in that state, and put others in your place. They are already there. But him you will not cause any harm, and we cannot cause any harm. We can keep praying, and we can keep doing Hajj and Umrah and keep saying our Salat, whatever we like. Nothing will change, for Allah has scales for all things. See, Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir sums it up. Illa tansuruhu faqad nasarahu Allahu iz akhrajahu allazina kafaru sani asnani iz huma fil ghari iz yaqulu li sahibihi la tahzan inna Allaha ma'ana. فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَيَّدَهُ بِجُنُودٍ لَمْ تَرَوْهَا وَجَعَلَ كَلِمَاتَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا السُّفْلَى وَكَلِمَاتُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Now this I thought will be quite fit today's presentation, that what life means. If you help not, Allah did indeed help him, Rasulullah. So whoever gets on his path, Allah does help them. When the kuffar drove him out, he had no more than one companion. Both were in the cave, and he told his companion, have no huzn, for Allah is with us. Then Allah sent down his peace upon him and strengthened him with forces which you saw not, and humbled to the depths the word of the kafirin, but the word of Allah is exalted to the heights, for Allah is Aziz and Hakim. So this, getting this new life and then developing ourselves, gives us assurance of the system of Deen right here, that we are not alone. This system has to come through human hands at some point in time. And more of these details will be covered once we outline the system of Deen. Understanding these verses gives us life, i.e. the importance of this life in relation to the life of the hereafter. And thanks for listening to the presentation. And we go to our question and answer session.